I found this letter journal in my firewatch tower in the back of the cupboard. It seems to be written by someone called Alex Matthews, and it's pretty disturbing. I'll write the entries below. March 2nd, 1997. Today is my first day of being a ranger, firewatcher. Well, whatever it is, I'm out here by myself with the forest. I should get some clear instructions tomorrow for my partner. I think his name is Jonathan. March 4th, 1997. Well, I didn't write yesterday. It's been a lot of integrating into my new routine. A lot of watching for smoke and keeping my radio open if a hiker gets lost in my sector, which is just the area around my tower. Other than that, I check temps, wind speed, precipitation, and all that stuff. I get supplies from a helicopter that comes once a month. I don't really expect much to happen, so I imagine this notebook will be unused. March 5th, 1997. Today there was a campfire I got called to stop. Got over there and had to stop a teenage party. I felt like an ass being about their age, but I needed to get the money somehow. I directed them to get out of there and I stomped out their fire and they left me to grab their trash. On the way back, I heard something in the woods. I imagine it's just a deer or something, but first time I explicitly heard something. March 6th, 1997. I'm writing this early in the morning. Last night there was something outside my ranger station. I heard what sounded like footsteps and muffled talking. Then outside my door was a deer skull. I found out it was on the one outside of the outhouse on the ground floor. I'm certain it was the teenagers I pissed off yesterday. I did report it and Jonathan said it was normal. He talked about how once a pissed off teenager smashed his window with a rock. March 9th, 1997. This job pays well, but it's so boring. Today I helped an old man who got lost in the mountain track. I pointed the old geezer back to the car park, even though their trails are named. He even had a cane. I don't know why he's out here walking these trails. I've just got a call from Jonathan. He normally doesn't call this late, so I knew something was off. Turns out someone's father was walking the trail today and hadn't come home. Tomorrow, police are going to come over to do a search and I'm meant to help. March 10th, 1997. We found the guy. It was the same old man as yesterday. He must have fallen down the side of the trail and broke his legs. I'm happy we found him, but still, I didn't need to be woken up so early for this. The police handled getting him home and to the hospital or whatever. I didn't pay too much attention after we found him. Jonathan didn't like how I just pointed him in the direction of the car park and not to walk with him, so he suggested I walk the trails periodically to get them in my head. March 12th, 1997. I've been walking the trails, specifically the mountain trail, and found these strange stacked stones, which I called into Jonathan, but he said it was probably just kids messing around. I knocked them down and then just collected the trash on the trails. March 15th, 1997. Today there was blood underneath my ranger station. I freaked out and called Jonathan and he simply brushed it off as an animal or something. I mean, it kind of makes sense. There are still wild animals, but I thought they would have learned to stay away from the ranger stations. Still, I have to clean it off, so I've had to go collect water and bring it back to scrub it all down. Smells horrible as well. March 17th, 1997. I've walked through most of the trails by now, especially the ones in my sector. So now I get to go back and begin walking through them again. God, I love my job so much. At least I'm getting more in shape. March 18th, 1997. Holy Jesus fuck. I walked the mountain trail and there was animals in the trees. I was walking and near where the stacked stones were and they had just been put back, except there was blood on them. I went to get a closer look in case it was just someone with red paint, but a warm, single drip fell onto the back of my neck. I looked up and it was a massive deer. Its head was pointed up and it looked crucified. The stomach was sliced and disemboweled with the intestines draped in the trees like Christmas decoration. I was frozen, staring at this thing at least 15 feet in the air. I slowly got my walkie to call this in. Midway through talking to Jonathan, I heard a loud crack in the forest and I just ran. I kept running, hearing these loud footsteps right behind me. I was almost at my ranger station, but I tripped and turned around, but it was just gone. I called Jonathan and he said to just get some sleep. That was the first night I slept with the curtains closed. March 19th, 1997. I didn't sleep and I didn't leave my station nor open my curtains. Jonathan was oddly calm about it. He said something about paranoia or just trauma of seeing that. He said that he'll call the police if that will make me feel better. They also had to get it out of the tree anyway. March 20th, 1997. I had led the police down to where the body was. We found footprints on our way there. They were a mix of my footprints with the shoes I was still wearing and these large impressions. 3-toed, but the toes alone were at least the size of my foot. We decided to continue to the deer. The blood was still scattered around the area, but the carcass was gone. Some of the intestines were still hanging, but the main cadaver wasn't there. It seemed whoever came back to get it waited until it was dry. I talked with the police, then they decided maybe it was just a fucked up hunter. It doesn't seem right, and I talked about what I heard, but they dismissed it as teenage anxiety. Maybe it was. God, I feel stupid, and maybe I was just overreacting. They didn't even acknowledge the footprints. Maybe I'm just going crazy out here. March 22nd, 1997. We've got our first missing person report. A hiker named David Green. Jonathan informed me that it's pretty common and that they'll turn up in a couple of days. Just gotta keep an eye out for them and keep walking the trails. March 23rd, 1997. Been walking the trails a lot lately, searching for David Green. Not much has happened, and I've checked the spot where the deer was, and nothing. Since it's been warmer, I've been walking a bit later into the night. I know it sounds stupid with what happened, but I want to find David Green. Maybe I might get a raise, or it will help me somehow. But really, I just want to find him. March 24th, 1997. I found him, but not in the way I wanted to. Me and Jonathan have lately been working closely with the police. For me specifically, Officer Davis and his dog Spike. We were walking down a trail known as the Sledge Track when his dog picked up a scent and we followed it down the side of the trail. The dog led to a large open clearance. In the middle of the clearance was a body. The body seemed badly damaged, but I didn't get a good look at it before Officer Davis called for help. I guess I just need to wait for the autopsy. March 26, 1997. I got the autopsy report early, specifically from Officer Davis, and immediately shared it with Jonathan as well. Me and Jonathan talked extensively about the report, but essentially it goes like this. David Green was 37 years old with brown hair, yada yada, all the normal stuff relating to his weight and height. But the actual part about what condition his body was in goes as this. Head is mostly intact with slight bruising on the back and left side. Right arm is intact with slight bruising. Left arm is absolutely shattered from forearm to shoulder from blunt force. The ribcage is also shattered from the left side, possibly the same force that eviscerated David Green's left arm. The hips, pelvis, and top part of the legs on the left side are also heavily damaged. The right leg is intact, although dislodged. The top portion of the left leg is heavily damaged, possibly from the same force that eviscerated David Green's left arm, but the bottom portion is more intact. That was the main portion of the autopsy report. There was a small excerpt at the bottom that all the blood from his body was removed or dried. The cause of death was listed as exsanguination, which I learned from Jonathan that means bleeding out. I've written enough today and I just need to lie down after this. I'll post more, but it takes a while to write these entries down. The journal isn't in perfect condition. I had to post this again as I saw I had messed up some of the sentences and or wording in this. Also, I have now written down a few more entries. As I said before, I found this journal way in the back of a cupboard in my tower. I don't know what to say except this is terrifying, especially since I'm in the same tower. March 27th, 1997. This is the first time I'm writing right in the morning. I just have no words on what happened to David Green. It's terrifying. I don't want to leave because, well, money. But what if he just fell out of a tree or was climbing a cliff and fell? Yeah, I mean, that much blunt force could only happen by that. Jonathan just called, "There's a fire." March 28th, 1997. There was a large fire. It's still going strong and I'm back here to rest before going back out there. I'll continue writing when it's done. April 2nd, 1997. With the help from Jonathan, myself, the fire department, and a couple of other fire rangers, it was an extremely long job. Making fire breaks and using planes to drop fire retardants. It was a really tough job and it took 6 days until it finally stopped, and it was the most strenuous thing I've ever done. Apart from that whole event, I got my supplies. It was fairly rushed being near the end of the fire, but I got the normal things like food, toilet paper, but I also got a letter from my parents. They still don't like newer technology, which is fairly annoying, but whatever. Anyway, the letter was just about them loving me and that they are proud of me for taking this job. Just the normal stuff. April 3rd, 1997. The hard work has not stopped. 6 new missing persons cases have popped up after the fire. Jonathan mentions how sometimes people go missing during or after forest fires and don't normally return. April 5th, 1997. Me and Jonathan have been combing our sectors without touching the burnt area. The senior fire rangers and fire department deal with sorting out the final things like cold trailing, which means they are essentially checking for any tiny fires which could start the whole thing again. Anyway, me and Jonathan went early in the morning before checking our sectors and went to the car park, which was a good 3 hours walk for me and a whole 6 hours for Jonathan. We did meet near the middle of our tracks, so it wasn't that bad. In the parking lot there were 6 cars all parked next to each other, which we knew was the missing persons as the park was closed while the fire was ongoing. And of course, now when they've been cold trailing the burn area, the cars were your normal Honda, Toyota, and all of them were locked. We checked them with our flashlights and wrote down their license plates. In the back of a few of the cars were these big plastic storage bins. We didn't really know what to do, so we called a towing company to grab the cars and return them to the families of these people. April 7th, 1997. The cold trailing has finished, and now me and Jonathan can go and search the burn area. We've been moving some plants and dirt into the burn area to try and make the forest regrow a bit faster. The tough weeds had already moved into the area to soak up the sunlight, but with nothing big growing, it's easier to search. April 8th, 1997. I was searching up near the burn area that was right against the mountains. I found a cave with weird moaning emanating from the cave. It sounded almost like a hurt person or like a crying baby. I steadied my flashlight and slowly went into the cave, and it was a fucking mountain lion. I barely saw a glimpse of its large white eyes that looked almost human-like, its teeth chattering slightly and snarling, so I bolted and made sure to avoid that area while I searched some more. April 9th, 1997. Again, I'm writing in the morning. I've talked to Jonathan a bit more and told him about the mountain lion. Jonathan said that we both should go and check out the cave together. I'm super excited for this and gotta go. Jonathan is calling for us to start walking. We explored a small amount of the cave. Jonathan went first with a Smith & Wesson. I really need to get one of those, and it was really cool. The entrance of the cave went back a bit before tightening, but we could still squeeze past. I flattened my back against the wall as we shuffled through. I didn't hear anything, and I wasn't scared. But Jonathan was extremely tense. The cave split into multiple crevices except the main cave. A couple of other crevices were surprisingly furbished. One even looked like a basement. There was some weird clothing and just miscellaneous items, so we moved on quickly either way. At this point, Jonathan was barely speaking, almost keeping stuff away from me before we eventually tried to move the furthest we could into the cave. Jonathan waved his revolver as he was expecting the mountain lion, even though it couldn't fit through the starting gap. The smell of blood began quickly, and Jonathan immediately started trying to leave. Despite my asking to continue, he just left. If I found that mountain lion myself, I would surely be dead, so I left with him. I want to go back there by myself, but I need to wait until I get more supplies, like a Smith & Wesson. April 10th, 1997. I was doing my final sweep of the burn area, which is just about searching for bones at this point, when I just came across a basement. It was like a basement for a lodge or house, and I took out my flashlight and descended. It smelled awful, like decomposing animals before I looked over the floor, and there were 7 bodies. 6 of them dead with their blood drained, all but one with a large ornate dagger. I left and just called the police and put a trail marker over where the basement was. I'm going back out with them, but I'm not going back into the basement. Even just that smell. It was like a mouthful of rotting meat and maggots just floating in the air, with the humid feel of it, like you're swallowed by a massive creature. I'm back from leading the police to the spot. It's been a couple hours, so I'm going to sleep, but first I'm going to have a shower downstairs before heading to bed. There was something downstairs. I didn't even finish walking down the stairs before I saw it. It was the deer from before. It had a gutted stomach. It looked dry and starved. I'm going to try and sleep, but I feel it watching me from my door. I can't sleep. I got a sharp knife and we are staring at each other. I've had my door locked. It's standing like a man. Its antlers are going past the top of the door with its already fucking eyes staring at me. I've been attempting to call Jonathan, and as soon as I said what was happening, he said, "Don't be scared, please," before turning off his side of the radio. What the actual fuck? April 11th, 1997. The deer left. I heard a loud thud last night as it fell out of sight. I'm scared to move, but I have to leave the station. I'm going into town and buying a gun the next chance I get, and maybe I found the deer. It must have collapsed from exhaustion just outside my door. There is no blood coming up my stairs, and the corpse is completely dry. There is something carved into the side of the deer, but no blood is coming from it. I'll try my best to write down what is carved into it. It's Mood, Meramid, Ihim, Edenzo. I'm not sure what language it is, but I know I need to get a gun. With the part about the cave, I might go see if I can find anything there. Then the phrase I just mentioned, if anyone can find out what this means, please tell me. I'm super interested to find out.